I'm Sheila Karolina, and I'm going to be your moderator for this session. This session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. I would like to bring your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent. And standards that are developed do not favour any particular provider and are open, non-binding and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct, which is up on the screen. And with that, I'd like to invite Christopher to come up and start his presentation.
Some people think, thank you, Sheila. My name is Christopher Raitviir, and today I'm giving this kind of like brief overview about spatial planning information modeling, which is a somewhat new concept for this kind of society, I believe. But then we are taking this kind of like look: is it the real future, or is it this kind of just nice to have innovation? But to get a little bit mood on the room, I would really like to see some hands here. Who of you are doing either urban planning or architecture? Okay, there are a few people. Who of you are working for the city government or national government? No hands though. Oh, somewhat. Okay. So about me, I'm working for the city of Tallinn in Estonia. I'm the head of digital construction in the city of Tallinn. So everything building permitting, urban planning, construction throughout the design to the facility management falls on top of me. Then I'm also doing my PhD in Tallinn University of Technology. And I'm a big believer in collaboration, and as the organization, although we don't have buildingSMART chapter in Estonia, I'm quite active on the European level for the UBIM task group, steering committee member there, and also participating in European network for digital building permits. But why are we talking about urban planning here in the buildingSMART conference? So first of all, I would consider urban planning as this kind of foundation in the building life cycle. So we actually start with urban planning before we go to any kind of design, construction, or facility management. And we don't start building the house from the walls. We need a strong foundation for this. But nowadays, how we are doing with this kind of like outdated practice, it's mostly decoding this Da Vinci Code, seeing some kind of like 2D papers. I have some examples on the real zoning plans as well. And some of you maybe had this kind of like nice opportunity to play SimCity in the 1990s when it came out. It was quite the fun stuff. So already the possibilities have been there. We have accustomed to it. So why not put it into the everyday practice? But stepping a little bit back, like why should we do these kind of things that we are doing? What is really the purpose of that? Of course, we want to create the best possible urban environment, a best place to live in, a desired destination to arrive to. But with this picture, do you know what is very common with this picture and all these kind of like renderings of the new building design and the urban planning design that you see when something is published? Perfect weather, sunny, everything is nice, everything is perfect. At least in Estonia, I don't know, you come from very different parts of the world, but most of the year looks like this. It's cold, it's rainy, it's dark. But what's the purpose now? It should still be the same. We are still creating this best possible urban environment. And when we are doing the urban planning also in information management systems, then we can take this into account. And if we are making a good urban plan that functions, let's say, 7 p.m. on the 15th of November, then perhaps we have done our work well. But looking at the problem, I'm not talking about only the productivity and the digitalization, but also what does it bring for us? It's just that we lose so much information coming from one stage to another stage. And even if we have this kind of like digital workflows, they mostly stay fragmented. They are not taking into account the previous step, that where we get that information and where we push that information forward. Therefore, only having digital workflows is not the answer. We have to synchronize these workflows. And when looking from the public sector perspective, we have zoning plan process, we have building permit process, we have usage permit, aka certificate of occupancy, and these kind of things are obligatory. I have never met anybody who wakes up in the morning and thinks like, what a wonderful day, I will go and get the building permit. Rather, it's like, now I have to get the building permit. Hopefully it will be a little bit smoother than it was last time. But yeah, this is the reality. And if you want to read more about this kind of thing, I have the QR code. So there is a little bit article that I wrote on the subject for this slide, and something that is upcoming next. So about the solution, how can we put this thing into this kind of like bigger perspective? Do I have here some kind of laser? No. Now I close the screen, I pressed the wrong button. Well, I tried to push that button again, maybe it opens. Well, very good. Then we have the public sector data core. For example, some kind of like open databases and the digital twin interface. This could be either 2D map, it could be the 3D map, it can be just some kind of brackets that you put information in, and then you get that information from these databases. So for example, for the urban planning context, we need a dendrological survey about the situation with greenery on site. And usually the outcome is some kind of PDF document that will be put into alongside the planning documents. But instead of that, if the dendrologist queries that information from the greenery database, verifies that information, adds the new information, corrects the wrong information, and then submits it back again to the database with the validation that there is a correct person who is qualified to do these kind of things. And in this stage, when we query that information again, then we are not that much stuck in the PDF solutions. But again, going to the urban planning, to the topic, where are we starting right now? So if you want this kind of like detailed zoning plan, we're at the moment not talking about the master plan level. So if you want to start building, you have to have the detailed zoning plan in the city. It takes about 4 to 5 years to get this kind of thing, depending on the area, where it is situated, how well-minded the neighbors are about these kind of things, how much do they object, etc. And then we have these kind of drawings. And then we have like 50 pages of explanatory letter, what we are trying to do. Of course, there are always these kind of like 3D renderings with nice cars, nice people, perfect weather, like I showed some slides back, this picture. And then I would say that this participation process is not user-friendly, it's not even neutral, this is totally user-hostile. If you're not an architect, you're not an engineer, you're not an urban planner, you're just a person who is living there and wants to contribute to these kind of things, this is what you have to look at, and this is what you have to understand, and it's really how we are really going to get this best possible urban environment. And this is the entire drawing. So here, 30% of the drawing is what is being planned. And 50% of the drawing is how to read this particular drawing. But be aware, this red color in this drawing might not mean the same thing that the red color means and another drawing for another plan. It's somewhat thinking like, we need our artistic freedom. Well, yeah, but the art changes with time. So like art in the 15th century and art in the 20th century are totally different things. But we are still calling 20th century art an art because this just changes with time. And again, like database planning can be an art. And this is actually what this looks like. So try to understand this, or you're just getting a glimpse of that. Of course, we have been adding also the architectural model, which is always not necessary. But if the developer has already this kind of information, it can be shared and it can be used. And this is only a snapshot of that. But of course, this is in the city model environment. And we also made it public for the participation so that everybody can just turn it, zoom in, look it from ever view they want to see it. And this brings us to this definition of spatial planning information modeling. But when we're like looking at BIM, this is business as usual. This has been defined a lot. This has been used a lot. But this kind of topic, it's a little bit new. There are some scientific surveys about that. There are things like calling it the GeoBIM, and also mostly the planning is in the GIS realm. But with this presentation, I hope to somewhat prove that when we're talking about the detailed zoning planning, then this can be also in the IFC realm, in the BIM realm. And of course, we have to define really what should be modeled. What is the definition of the spatial planning information model? What elements should be in 2D? What elements should be in 3D? And somewhat it stays in the middle, so it would be 2.5D. Also, what is the level of geometry that is needed in this kind of stage? What is the level of information that is needed to put in from the early planning process to the ratification of these plans? And also, we have to look into the practice as well, because in theory, we can use whatever the standards. We can have it in CTGML, we can export this as GeoJSON or so, but we have to figure out like what are the people actually using, and if they're mostly using some kind of like basic 2D CAD tools like AutoCAD or equivalent, then they have to somehow start using something different. And with Autodesk example, I'm not very much fond of Autodesk. I'm not trying to make a commercial for them. I'm actually quite against this kind of like monopolistic situations, but still, like, if we are using Civil 3D instead of regular CAD, we are not using some kind of like pipes and road corridors. We just have to use terrain height model. We have to have the ability to export our data into the IFC schema. Then it is totally doable with not that steep learning curve for the practical users. And we want to speed up the process, but of course, the main thing is again like best possible urban environment. That is the purpose. So we have to concentrate on the quality of these plans, the quality of the environment that we are planning, because this is the stage that we can change our decisions quite cheaply. And another part would be when we are looking at different plans. So for example, this is one detailed zoning plan, another one, here is the third one, there is the fourth one. Actually, there are fifth and sixth one as well for the Tallinn Harbor area. And for the conformity of these plans at the moment, the planning officials, they have to open two different PDFs on their two different screens. They are filled with hatches, a lot of vector graphics. Then they're zooming in somewhat a little bit, and then it starts loading. They go for a coffee, sip a little bit coffee, then see, okay, now it finished. Now zoom in another one, maybe go for a smoke break, coming back. A lot of wasted time. But here, having these kind of things in the city model environment, it's much easier to go these things through. Another possibilities would be to do this kind of like environmental analysis. Tools are already out there. They have been out there for a long time. So for example, the sunlight. So when we are seeing that these parts in the inner yard, they get 0 hours of sunlight even during the middle of the summer, then there definitely will be this kind of problem that you can't have apartments there because, well, at least in Estonia, we have the requirement that you have to get at least 2.5 hours in either spring or autumn solstice, so either the end of March or the end of September. And already in this stage, we can see like, okay, this is not doable. We have to change something. But in this stage, it's quite easy to change. Also, we can take the noise into account so that we wouldn't have problems later in the building permitting stage. Otherwise, it's much more costly to change the things. And another part would be the wind. So for example, if we have several buildings and we are thinking like, okay, it would be nice to have a children's playground in the middle of them. But if it is a lot of wind, well, Estonian example would be the wind is quite cold. We don't want that wind. The children will go outside to play in April already. And well, they get this kind of like chronic diseases like bronchitis and stuff like that. In Southern Europe, mostly it would be like very welcome this wind because it's cooling down. They are not that heated up so that we can make data-based decisions. And also, there has been a lot of talk about BIM-based building permitting, automated rule checking. We can already do this semi-automated rule checking in the planning phase. visually, just manually. Also geometrical and semantical contradictions, which can be optimized. Also, we can do it in several stages. We can compare the detailed zoning plan against the master plan, and also for the construction design in the building permitting process, because one of the many checks that we have to do during the building permitting is construction design according to what was required by the planning? And if the plans are not machine readable, then this part of the building permitting can't be automated as well. And there are, again, another issues. And when to do these kind of things, of course, it's essential to have possibility to check these kind of things before the processing. So it wouldn't be this kind of like black box that all the applicants, they can just upload their design, run the checks, get the results, make it correct, either download the PCF and forward it to the designers, etc. And we did also the proof of concept, how it actually would work out. We did it with a Dutch company, Future Insight. First of all, there is like some kind of viewer where there are different like point of interests, also the narrowing zones that are coming from the utility networks, etc. Also this kind of like flooding zones, all are from the GIS realm, either WMS or WFS services, so that we can have this kind of like background information. Then we had the detailed zoning plan using the IFC schema. We had, of course, I will talk about this thing in the further slides, but we had the buildable envelopes where the building can be. Then we had the example of maximum volume of the building. We had the greenery layer, the transportation layers, like, for example, the bicycle lane, the pedestrian lane, the car lane, also the trees on top of the greenery layers, the planning area, and also the plots. And this is basically, I would say, 80% that is needed to really get us started. Of course, there are servitudes and some other rights and all these kind of things in planning, but we don't have to deal with everything right now. We just have to start from somewhere. And some example, we did 7 different checks. So first of all was to determine what is there in these models. And as we can see, like 40% of this is transport area, then 10% is buildable area. And what is red, there is basically a gap. So in this kind of like plan area, there is 50% where there are no layers. And here we just see that, okay, mostly it is sea pool. So maybe it's okay. We don't have to model the existing condition, but some parts are missing the information. Then the greenery requirements. If the master plan is saying that 20% of greenery is needed for every plot, we can easily see that if we know the plot size, we know the greenery layer size, how can we really check it? Another thing would be the building height. If the master plan is saying that buildings must be lower than 23 meters, again, we can either check it from the geometry of that IFC element, or we can read it from the property, and we can even compare the actual geometry with the property that is in it. Another thing would be if the buildable area is within 7 meters to another buildable area or an existing building. Of course, why it is yellow, not red, you can build it closer. But then you have extra fire safety requirements, and these fire safety requirements are going to cost you a lot of money. So if you have some room on your land plot, you just move it a little and everything is solved. Another example would be a proximity to some point of interest. In this example, we are using fire hydrant. If every building is closer to fire hydrant than 50 meters, but instead of that, we can use bus stop, schoolhouse, kindergarten, nail salon, whatever is needed. Another good example would be the restriction zones. Here we are seeing that this buildable area corner is just slightly in the railway protection zone, and looking from far away, it seems like, yeah, it's barely touching, everything is okay. But actually it goes in it. But also we can have that example not only with the railway protection zone, but with heritage zone, flooding zones. And in this case, we're not giving errors, but warnings, because yes, you can build there, but again, maybe you have to spend more money because of the heritage requirements, or your house will be under the water within 50 years. But if in your land plot you have the higher area, move your buildable area there and you are safe. So it's not about only the successes and errors, it's all about warnings. And all this information, it's not to make this process totally automatic. About this automation, the main key is to enable the people who are doing this work really concentrate why they are doing this work, to make this decision, to bring the value, not to source the information from the different documents. Let's use machine for that. So we're not replacing the people with this kind of things. We are enabling them to really put this effort where they are needed the most. But of course, it is not that easy, of course. There is this kind of rules of the game. There are the legislation things, and changing the legislation, of course, is a little bit hard process, but it's not undoable because we really can't change the laws of the nature. But all the human written laws we really can do. There just has to be enough political will, and people like us have to carry on that message. So it would be done, most probably. But of course, there are these national minimum requirements that has to be set. The same game rules for all the municipalities in this country, but some municipalities have more needs than the other ones. So we should not have too many requirements that the small cities or small parishes are never needing. But again, when we have these things that the bigger cities need, that there would be also this kind of like uniformity. For example, if like, for example, city of Madrid is needing something and city of Barcelona is needing something, or if Berlin is needing something and city of Hamburg is needing something, then they would not invent these kind of like new properties, but they would come together and decide, okay, we actually want the same thing. Let's have this kind of like common property that would be usable. And another thing of the challenge is, of course, about this lack of standardization. Like, everybody wants their artistic freedom, everybody wants their own colors. It's a form of art. Then we have, again, like very many stakeholders. We have the developers, we have the planners, we have the city officials. To understand all this change, and again, like with automated checks, as I was expressing, that this is about getting that information a little bit faster. And should we have very strict rules or also leave a little bit more room for interpretation? Again, when we leave a little bit room for the interpretation is totally okay. But if we have like the infinite amount of room for interpretation, then these things are never machine readable, never machine checkable. So it is about the legislation that it's the same thing with the building permits. Like, how can we make this legislation machine readable? No, you don't have to make the machine readable. This is not the priority. This doesn't matter at all. We have to make the legislation so that it is really measurable, and we can have finite amount, not infinite amount of interpretations. And then if we have this kind of situation, like everybody who knows a little bit about coding, they can make this part machine readable like this. So this is not the issue. Issue is about the legislation and pushing through this kind of mindset in legislative bodies. And this is what we have to concentrate on. Again, this kind of like analysis that I was showing, sunlight, wind, noise, who should do them? Should the planners do them? Or if these kind of models are being given to the municipality, should municipalities do them? Because again, the software costs, so who is bearing the costs? These kind of decisions have to be spoken through. They have to be agreed upon in the industry. Otherwise, there will be a lot of this kind of hesitation. And of course, resistance to change, but this kind of thing can be written to any topic, to any presentation overall. Now, another part, as I mentioned, I was utilizing IFC for that. But of course, when we're like looking at the IFC schema, it's meant for buildings, buildings, facilities, the infrastructure. But if I'm looking like, okay, I have IFC project, then I have IFC site, and basically IFC site should represent everything I have in the planning. And the IFC site doesn't have its own geometry, basically. It's like a spatial representation, so I can just add something under it. And even when I have this kind of like buildable envelopes, the buildable areas, using IFC building for that, it's not really feasible, because IFC building is something that is very concrete, but I don't have this kind of like abstract level representation for these kind of things. Also for the greenery layers, also for the transport layer. So if I have the transport layer, I cannot say it's IFC road. It just doesn't make sense. I don't have their IFC road part, etc. It's just this kind of like plannable thing. So if we just add a little bit more abstract to the schema, maybe we don't need that many new entities, but a little bit more freedom on this. Another part would be, okay, if I have the tree, then IFC vegetation predefined type tree. Well, it's rather meant for this kind of like 2D representation. It doesn't make sense to me, at least. So we should not revolutionize the schema itself, but have this as this kind of like example, because as I have heard, also landscape architects are struggling with these kind of things when we're requiring the site models, so that this kind of thing is a little bit missing. And if we are just going around the schema like we did using proxy elements, which is actually doable, we can really do it. We can have this proxy element, we can have custom properties attached to it, but then again, semantic clarity and these kind of things, how I'm like looking at the models, then it's not the same. So I would say like IFC is really powerful, but it does not speak yet the language. Should it? So when I'm looking at this picture, I see a lot of duct tape and some machines stuck together. So it would be, I'm not saying that IFC is somehow this kind of like monstrosity that is somehow patched together. It's rather that maybe sometimes people are also too much trying to push everything to this schema. Maybe with these things that I am talking right now, maybe I'm using the duct tape to put together these kind of things that maybe do not fit together. There might be the people who are just saying that, no, what are you doing? Planning is and will be done in GIS. It should be it's GML. Forget about IFC. It's not for that. But well, yeah, when I'm talking about the master plans, it makes sense to me. This is this kind of like strategic, holistic city level. But now I'm looking at the construction site. It makes sense to also have it represented as IFC, because when the architects start working in their Revit or ArchiCAD or Vectorworks, or maybe doing it in native IFC using Bonsai, which would be very welcome to solution, then they also need some reference, and they can very easily insert the IFC schema of their model, and then also compare it with some kind of like authoring tools. So this would help a little in the future workflow, and this would help on this kind of journey towards synchronized information flows. But even if we are not looking to get the duct tape off that machine, make it really oiled and well functioning, there are the workarounds. So basically what we need is geo-referenced model. We have the IFC format, okay. Even if we use building element proxies, if we're like pre-IFC4, was it building element after IFC4? I'm struggling a little bit on that. We just need buildable area model, the envelope, the building volume that would fit into it to represent the maximum actually allowed volume that is allowed to shift around that envelope, the layers I was talking about before. Then we need these properties, and of course, these kind of like planning properties. At the moment, even if they're not existing, you can create just these kind of like custom property sets. And if you really want to push it live, just publish it in the buildingSMART data dictionary. And building element proxy is better solution than no solution. And the main thing is that we should not get stuck so much in the theory. Just slow and steady, and like that we win the race. It's think of something, pilot it, make a proof of concept, make the minimum viable product, put it out there, get the feedback from the end users, and just develop further. Otherwise, I will have 500 pages of the different documentation. And when I start with practice in reality, then I have 500 pages of useless information, and I have to start from the beginning, because this is usually the case that even if you try to figure out everything, if you start trying it out, you understand that you didn't figure everything out, and the first kind of like obstacle can really bite you. But thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that there is time for a few questions.
Thank you very nice for the nice presentation. The gaps that you see in IFC, like zones and parcels, I also discovered in some project the missing elements there. But I find a very good definitions in the European Inspire model. You see some links there that we might take some parts from the Inspire spec and put that in a dictionary.
Well, yes, I'm not very much technically fluent with Inspire. I have been looking into it as well. And of course, if it is already somewhere, it should be something that we could reuse. And the other part is also this kind of like semantic part that instead of figuring out every country that they need their own properties, then there is an ISO standard of land administration domain model, and we should utilize that as well, so that we collaborate not only with each other but also with existing standards, so that we can bring out this kind of like better solution without reinventing the wheel. Anyone else? I would like to walk around a little with the microphone. Yes, no, maybe? Huh?
Hi, also very good presentation. Yeah, it was lovely to hear. I have a question. You mentioned City of Madrid. Yes, some time ago we had a Open BIM conference in Warsaw, and it was also a very good presentation about the process of digital permits there. Yeah. So, are you also? Is there any steps in Tallinn to somehow incorporate this what you do with planning, also with digital permits? Yes, so that if the investor or developer is coming to you with the model, then it's quicker, faster, and simply easier for everybody.
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, we started a little bit backwards. Right now, I was talking about the planning, but actually, we have already BIM-based building permitting solution nationwide live, and we have already first BIM-based building permits also. But when I was dealing with that thing, I was like thinking that, okay, but actually planning is the logical start point. But okay, now we have the building permitting, we go back to planning. But again, our building permitting solution, we have about 50 automated checks already from either requirements for the housing, the accessibility, the fire rating, web-based view where everything is embedded into the national building registry, which is usable for all the municipalities. But of course, I have to mention again, this is the MVP solution. This is not this kind of like, well, we have solved everything, but we have something out there that can be used. And hopefully now I'm also next week actually meeting with the building permit processors to get their initial feedback on the first building permits that we're using BIM, and how can we make this process a little bit better, and how should the software be further developed to accommodate these kind of needs.
Yeah, also I would like to thank you for a very interesting presentation. About the planning, of course, is different than the building permit, but do you have a view kind of that you said kind of you like it to be specific, but to my knowledge, I'm more in kind of the digital area, but kind of for fire safety, for instance. In Denmark, you are allowed to do kind of whatever you like to do as long as it's safe, and that's kind of difficult to validate in a building permit. That is, you have performance-based fire safety, kind of smoke layer and so forth. Do you foresee that there will be more restricted requirements, or will it be possible to interpret what has been delivered to see if the project fulfills the requirements to be safe?
Thank you. That's a really good question. And yes, of course, the purpose of this is being safe. And actually, for the building permitting, a lot of fire safety requirements, and this is like fire safety is really good example that this is actually one of these requirements that doesn't have very much ambiguity. It's like really clear, really measurable, really concrete numbers. So, for example, if I have an apartment complex, then it has a certain way of use for the fire safety part. This is like one of these kind of like starting points. Then there is this specific heat load, how many megajoules per square meter it delivers. Then we have the height of the building, the number of the users of the building, and the net floor area of the building. And these kind of attributes already, by this, the requirements are being calculated from the law. So it is saying like, okay, in this case, all your load-bearing structures have to be at least REI 60, then your evacuation route must be shorter than 30 meters. In case you have the sprinkler system, it can be 45 meters. And these things we can check from the BIM model in the permitting phase. But in the planning phase, of course, the only example regarding the fire safety would be that, of course, if your building is closer than 7 meters to other buildings, then you have to have some kind of requirement. So basically, it's not this kind of like error or success check. It's just warning that, hey, watch out. You just have to spend more money due to the fire safety. If you just put your building 8 meters away and you have that opportunity, then you don't have to concentrate on this. And this would be, again, money saving. But again, there are some checks that also I brought up, but also this kind of like how many parking spaces are in the planning plot. Is it okay regarding the city's normatives of minimum parking places per an apartment or so? And this kind of like things that are really measurable, we can do. And if we want something safe, then for the building permit stage at least, we have to define what is safe and we have to be able to measure it. And if there are still some things that we can't, then these things are manual, done by specialists. We don't have to automate 100%. We can't even automate more than 95%. If we automate 80%, then mostly we just use 20% of the effort. And this is where the Pareto principle is very good. Okay, now can I take the final question or I'm just one more? Okay.
I remember years ago here in buildingSMART International, we had a call to participate for the, if I'm not wrong, IFC for site, landscape and urban planning. And well, I was quite interested on if that project and never could start it. I'm coming from Barcelona, from the Spanish chapter as well. And nowadays there we are developing, metropolitan area of Barcelona is developing also their way of understanding all these as well, using the IFC schema also. And so I wonder, what could we do here in buildingSMART International, considering the current state of the art of the standards that we have nowadays, and also the services, because here there's also the semantics thing and also the buildingSMART data dictionary, probably not at the time when that call was launched. So somehow, and it's a topic that in every summit, but not just in our community, even across all these digital building permits conferences that now every year in every country there is one, and so on. So it's a topic, and I wonder what could we do in buildingSMART International in that regard, not just showcasing exceptional cases like it's this outstanding one. We have few. I personally made a very humble call using the buildingSMART International forum that I don't know if here you jump in there for, hey, people that are in big metropolitan areas or cities that are concerned about this topic, would you like to collaborate each other under the umbrella of buildingSMART International to, I don't know, but of course there will be a need for resources and so on. So yes, I wonder if now it's the time to do something from buildingSMART International rather than just analyzing what people is doing, because we maybe can provide some framework for that.
Yes, of course. This is the point of my presentation here in the buildingSMART Summit, that there should be something that the buildingSMART International can do, and I somehow believe this maybe falls a little bit into the regulatory domain, instead of like having like you have like the airports and the infrastructure. Do we now have the planning? Maybe it is too much. Somehow shift the things in the existing domains and just to investigate what has been done already. And this should be done also in collaboration. For example, the EU BIM task group would be a good organization to also participate in that, and all this kind of like this landscape thing. that you mentioned. I think this was 2017, something like that. I also found some information on that, and that project just somehow faded away. But now in context with the BIM-based building permitting, this planning stuff and the landscape stuff is actual again, it is needed again. And without the buildingSMART international support, and I don't mean here the financial support, but actually the will to accommodate these things in the schema, we just have to have this kind of like workarounds like I was showing using building element proxies, and this is not the solution. So
Well, it's a class that it's within the schema, but the technical report goes beyond trying to extend it. And one of the use cases is also the urban, let's say, domain or the urban case, right? So somehow I miss, let's say, because it's a quite horizontal thing. You mentioned the airport because of that specificity, let's say, and then I miss a place. I don't know. It's not a domain itself, but it could be maybe. I don't know, or whatever we want to call it. But a place for discussion only for this topic, because it's a very horizontal one that has connection with quite a edge.
It really doesn't matter what is the form of this thing. It really matters that there are solid outcomes and so. And a lot of the, like you mentioned, the spatial. So a lot of the classes already exist. We just need some kind of types, and it is.
It's possible. Oh, sorry, I have to leave now for Finland, for the airport now. But I would like to say that we Finnish and Estonians would like to have other countries also to join us for the development. And I recommended that we will find a suitable network somehow under the buildingSMART networks or domains. I'm pretty sure that we can fit this. And it's important that we develop together, not just but one country, but together. And thank you, Chris, for excellent presentation. I'm sorry, I have to leave now.
Thank you very much, and I'm very deeply sorry to all of you who are waiting 15 minutes already for the next presentation, and to all our viewers online. And thank you, Sheila, so much for bearing with me.
You're welcome. Thank you, Christopher. And on that note, can I invite Zofia and Karolina up to the stage?
Hello again. It's really nice to be here, especially after 3 days of amazing speech. And today we are going to talk about the form, a modern office building, and how we use IFC model for facility management. And we start from a short introduction, some detail from about the project. After that, we focus on our strategy for facility management, and of course, we share what we learn through this project. My name is Karolina Przybyłek. I'm a head of BIM at POR Poland, and I was a BIM manager on that project.
And I am Zofia Kraciuk, and I was a BIM coordinator on this project. Right now, I'm BIM manager on another project.
Yes, probably if you know the center market in Europe, you know POR, but maybe you don't know what is our Principia. So we focus on the construction. We technology leader. We developed new technologies and use that solution on our sites. We also one-stop shop, so you can order in our shop everything from design to build to operation phase, and we could be a total contractor or a general contractor. Our history starts 150 years ago in Vienna. Our strategy is to intelligent growth with green and lean, and we really do believe in lean management because we don't really like waste of time and money. And we live responsibly. We got our concern ESG strategy, and we concentrate on added value for our clients. As I said, we work in a center Europe. So our headquarters is in Vienna, but we also work in a German market, in a Polish market. In Poland, we are one of the biggest general contractor. We also work in Czech Republic, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Romania. And maybe you remember or know that our colleagues from Romania last year were finalists in buildingSMART award. And we got a small project market in Norway, UK, and Qatar. A few examples of projects from Poland.
Or not?
Sheila, can you help us?
Yes.
Yes, perfect. So
Thanks.
we built a hospital, we built a office building, tunnel, railway, bridges, roads, data centers, some specialist civil engineering building, and we like demanding project. And such an example of this project was the form.
So about the form, it's a new office building in Warsaw. It was completed at the beginning of this year, and the investor was Crowley Company and Lincoln Property Company. And yes, as a new building, we knew that we needed to tailor this building to the modern businesses. So we need to obtain certificates for sustainability and performance certificates. That's why BIM was crucial to this, also crucial for this project. So we successfully obtained those certificates, and
Not easy.
it wasn't easy. Of course, we help as a general contractor. We help with obtaining those certificates, and BIM was especially useful and helpful in Smart Score Platinum and the change, the way that we have our FM solution chosen gave us another additional points. And also with LEED Platinum, the whole documentation was made by from the models. And right now we will jump to the details of FM.
Yeah. So for facility management, the base was a model, and I think the most important is good quality of model. So we got the requirements for our clients. We got LOD 300, and we are obliged to prepare LOI table. We suit the table for a building type, but also for needs of our team on site. And we get from our investor almost 16 parameters for FM, so it was quite a lot. Of course, we have to be sure that models are okay. So we check the model, we check the parameters, we check the clashes. And unfortunately, when we started the project, there is no IDS. So we have to use IFC model, BIM Collab, and Excel, but it was okay. And for sure,
We managed.
Yeah, for sure it will be easier with IDS. Yeah, but what we achieve that goal, and we also take care of how the model was built because we want to take a BOQ for our team and for our clients. We also use model on tablets, on our phones, daily base on site. And to inform you, we use 2-3 schema of IFC. So what challenges we got at the beginning? For sure, it was hard to define the scope and the structure of FM data because we didn't know who and on which platform or program or which
I mean,
way.
investor didn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
So
our
we
clients.
didn't know. Yeah.
So we also didn't know that. Yeah, and how the data should look like. So that's the main the second problem. Of course, because we don't like waste, it was hard to balance what should we set in the parameters, and the balance was really important because we a bit we're thinking that not every 16 parameters will be used at the phase of operating. And because we got that requirements for execution phase and for facility manager phase, we have to be sure that parameters will be exported properly. Yeah, so at the initial phase, we got a lot of parameters to FM, a lot of talks with client and his BIM manager, and we recognize that without operator and without the solution for management of a building, it is impossible to set the whole parameters and do it in a good way. That's the initial FM parameter list. Yeah,
we knew that it's too much.
Yeah, we knew, first of all, we knew that it's too much, and that we really don't know which URL file we should add on that parameter. It should be some link for a platform on some path to some hardware. So for us, it's important to know that because we also got a CDE platform for collecting the data. So we want to do it live from site. So yeah, at the initial phase, we got our main concern is that we got too many parameters, and we don't know where the files and the data will be updating.
Well, so at the end, almost at the end of the project, the FM parameters were consulted with the investor. And we managed to minimize the number of parameters to 8. And then we defined the groups of parameterized elements because also our investor was aware that he wanted to have a facility management prepared model for facility management, but he, didn't know exactly what does it mean. So we had a whole meeting with the investor, subcontractor, and the BIM manager from the investor side, and we defined the groups we are going to parameterize. And then we also help with selecting the FM platform, which was of course in our interest because we wanted to have the platform that's going to be easy to use and easy to implement the information. So that was the initial, and then we finished with that kind of table. So that was our parameters. So as you can see, we just need to upload one document. I mean, that was a lot of documents, but in one folder, which we will upload to the asset. So what was the initial plan for the implementation was that we will have only IFC model, and then we will embed the FM data into the native model, and then we will export it as to IFC, which is of course for everybody quite obvious at the beginning. But our final solution was that we use the dedicated FM platform for data input and then linking the model. So we imported models and documents. We create the assets, and then we could link elements. So how did we do it? Well, it's really simple. We just wanted to show you that sometimes it's better to use different solution. Not everything has to be in IFC. So on the platform, we had to do the asset identification. We did it by visually on 3D model, as you can see on the right side, and also by the IFC parameter schedule. And then we managed to have our assets input. And when you have an asset, you can assign the product, which is a type of an asset, to the exact component. And after that, if you have this asset, you can make a schedule, and then you can fill in data on the FM platform. But yes, but we chose to export that to Excel because as a BIM manager, I am in love with Excel. And so that was, but the main reason is that you could import that to your computer, and we send that to our subcontractors who could fill in the data for us. And then afterwards, they send it back to us, and then we could import that to FM platform, and that was the end of our job. So as for us, it was really easy, and yeah, we were really happy with this solution. And after that, we also were worried about our archive, because we have to know what we have done. The FM platform was on the investor side, so if the platform will be closed, there will be no sign of our work. So we decided that we are going to have an IFC and also then Excel. So we just schedule with do the schedule with the IDs of elements. We select aim and PIM parameters, and then we export it back to Excel. So if you want, we can combine those if it's going to be needed. For hopefully not soon. And yes, so what was our takeaways in this situation, which was, as you could see, very simple. It's that you can defer the FM data decision until the operator is chosen, which is, of course, sometimes is not the best idea, but in our situation, when we have a good relationship with the investor, it was for us better, because we can tell them that what he needs actually can be shortened and simplified. So collaboration between us and the contractors, subcontractors, and the designers and the operator was essential. And if you have a good IFC model for the previous phase, you're really good to go with the FM phase, because you already know what you have, you already you're prepared, and you can easily assign the product to the elements in a model. And so we know that the digital handover is achievable with proper planning and tools, and it's helpful to have a flexible approach to data archive.
Yeah, so to sum up, it's really important to have a good strategy for parameter selection, and sometimes it's better to be patient and to wait for more data, and you spend a lot of time for work that nobody needs, and it's not the way we work at POR. So yeah, it's important to be patient. The collaboration is, I think, the most important thing on the project. We got a good relationship with our client, probably because the project was on time and on budget, so it's easier to have a good relation in that in that situation. And yeah, we really recommend you to use open standard, because you never know when it's help you, and especially when you don't know what will be the final solution of, for example, facility management. The good base as a IFC model really can help you, because you can use it in a lot of different way. And of course, it's important to know what you should deliver to your client, and so that the clear data handover process is also it's nice to have that when situation that everyone knows what
is required.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for your attention. If you got some questions, we're waiting for that. And if you
want to contact,
yeah,
feel free. Okay.
Thanks for the nice insights. I'm wondering, how could you handle changes if something must be replaced or a new element is coming? Who is changing that in the model? Who is responsible for that, actually?
Well, right now, the building operator is responsible for that. Actually, at the beginning, when we import.
I think it's important to know that we got that design and build formula. So we got a designer from.
We were designing
the
it
whole
through.
process.
Yes. So at the end, we had the up-to-date model. So yeah, at the end, I uploaded once models, and then there were changes. But if you have if the GUID doesn't change, then it's okay, because the models are updating on the platform. But actually, after that, that's what the building operator will do. Well, they will be changing that. But if let's say something moves, then it's okay. The data is there. But if something is removed, then it's gonna be removed. But if you want to add something, the operator will be adding that to the model, and then they will have to add the information into the platform.
Yeah, but the clients got a native format of models and exporter to IFC, so it's easy to change something.
Yeah, hi, and also from my side, thanks for the clear presentation. I would be interested in, is the model, to what extent is the model used now during operation? Do you have any feedback from your client? I mean, the building is obviously built, the FM system was selected in a mutual process. So is there any feedback? Are they working rather more with data, or are they using the geometry? And maybe there are some specific use cases during the operation which were discussed previously and implemented?
As I know, right now, this is not on our side. I know that they are using the FM platform to send to us the issues, which are the big issues, I would say. So the defects. But if you are asking about the maintenance of the building, well, I know that actually they told me that they still had too many elements at the end, because we wanted to do it better, and if we weren't sure if we should do if the assets were enough of taken from the model, and they really using not a lot of elements that were imported, and I know that they just using the platform because they were chosen because the platform was suited for them. So they manage everything on the platform. Yeah, it was Dalux. Yeah, yes, Dalux FM. So I know they're using that, and they were chosen because they are using the FM Dalux. Because as we told you, the FM platform was chosen solution, and after that they said that, okay, so if we chose the FM platform Dalux, so we need to know that the operator gonna use it. No. No. Well, yeah, it does, but it has a huge minus, which is you cannot make a schedule of parameters there. which is existing parameters, and you cannot add parameters there. So it's yeah, and you cannot. I don't remember, but we were thinking about this model, because when we would have this archive that is going to be needed for us. But they, fortunately for us, the investors said that okay, we will buy the FM platform right away, and we were doing that on the platform, not by handover. Someone else? Oh, okay. So thank you very much. I know that it was a lot.